Welcome back, everyone, to the Drought Crops Update Weekly, week ending August 20th, 2022. So let's get to the data and see what's going on this week. So we're going to start again with the current large incidents, forest fires. We can see that there's that large fire still showing in New Mexico. We've been tracking the Hermit fire in Idaho, and the data on this shows a 4% increase from yesterday, so it's just under 90,000 acres now. And interestingly is that as we've been looking at this, the expected containment date has been September 15, 2022, and now that has been removed. So whether that means conditions are changed up there or whatnot, they don't have a containment date anymore. So if we go over to the Firms USA Canada map, again we can see the large fires, and the ones that show as fire I have set to over 1,000 acres. Last week, in the last couple of weeks, there's been this one fire just across the South Dakota-Wyoming border. It has now been removed. And again, we're tracking the Hermit fire, which I think is this one right here. Let's see. Oh, the Moose. Sorry. Yes, the Moose we're looking at. So 89,000 acres. And if we look at the current situation, we can see there's many spot fires all around the active burn area, other fires out around the area, so it's a quite active region right now. If we go to the VIIRS satellite to look at current conditions, we can see that this whole area is inundated with smoke, and it would appear that the wind is east to west, because the western slope has more smoke than to the east, although smoke is filtering down the valleys toward the east. And as we get into Yellowstone Park, you can see the valleys and the mountains and all the area in Yellowstone through the cloud cover. You can see that there is smoke, and in fact the smoke even filters out into the basin in central Wyoming and runs up against the western flank of the Bighorn Mountains. And it doesn't appear that much smoke is getting over the Casper Arch between Casper Mountain and the Bighorn. So that leaves us here in the Black Hills. We're clear, except for clouds. We have no smoke inundation in our area. So we're going to keep an eye on these fires as they continue to burn and hopefully get put out. But as you can see in the west, as you can see through the cloud cover, all of eastern Montana, Washington, Idaho, it looks like there is smoke quite common in these areas, and you can see it trailing down the valleys. Okay, so we're looking at fires then again as an indication of dryness, and just keeping an eye on those. So this map here is veg dry, and again, as we saw last week, that the satellite that is used to record these data has had a glitch, and so no more data is being posted past July 31st. However, we can look at some other data on here. And so interestingly, let's just look at maximum consecutive dry days in the past 7 days. And so this is for the US, and shows by these colors here the maximum consecutive dry days. And so where I'm at here, we're in this green, so 2 days, but directly east of us it gets into up to 7 days, a week without moisture. And you can see all of the west, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, most of California, North Texas, Oklahoma, southern Kansas. These areas have had no precipitation in the past 7 days, which is quite dramatic. We can look at the consecutive dry days in the past 30 days as well. And so again, the West Coast, Central Texas, 20 plus days without precipitation. So the drought seems to be pervasive. It is continuing, and we'll keep an eye on that as we move forward. Okay, so the U.S. Drought Monitor, again, we have been comparing the current week with the previous week, and so that's what we're looking at here. So the current week on the left, the past week over here on the right. So we're going to look at this in a different way this week using Google Earth. And so here are these data in Google Earth. And Google Earth is fun because again you can move the Earth, and as you zoom out you see. So it's just a fun way to look at the data, and these drought data are available in a KMZ file that you can upload directly into Google Earth. So this image is the drought condition a week ago. Again, the deeper the red, the more severe the drought. And this area up here in the northeast, this red extreme drought just appeared last week. And as we'll go to the current week, we'll see that this area has actually grown. This area in northern Nebraska has reduced some. Southern Utah and all this area through Nevada down into California has reduced some as well in the past week. And so if we look at the current condition, then we can see that there's been some reduction here, and a growth up here. Other than that, it's pretty consistent. The pattern still remains the same, is that through the central part of the country, Texas through the Great Plains, into the northern Great Plains is under various conditions of drought into extreme drought. And then a lot of the west, Oregon, California, Nevada, and into Utah are in extreme drought situations as well. Okay, so back to the next product we're going to look at is the Vegscape, and we're going to step through this on a daily basis starting with the 13th. Again, this is NDVI, which is gives an indication of the vigorousness of vegetative growth. And so the higher the number, or the deeper the green, the more active growth the vegetation has. The lower the number is indications of more drought stress, plant stress, poor growing conditions, low chlorophyll activity in the plants, and will respond to increases in, like say, flood conditions that will overwhelm the plant. That might show in these low numbers that show up as drought as well. So there's many factors going on in here, but again, the general area in the western U.S., Southern California, Nevada, Southern Utah, Arizona, and these areas, these colors are indicative of bare rock and soil and high plant stress, and so we see that that's pretty standard in this part of the country. These gray and kind of coppery and gray areas moving through the nation are more flash droughts, day-to-day droughts that are where the vegetation is responding to local climatic conditions. So this was a week ago, then the 14th, the 15th. So this area in the upper Midwest up here is pretty droughty, and we see that in South Dakota we've got an extreme drought situation that has developed up in here. Again, this area in Nebraska, South Dakota in here has been extreme drought as well for the past week plus. Again, a swath then coming across the central part of the country. Now, sometime last week, portions of Texas had severe rain up to 10 inches. So that causes severe stress in the plants as well, and may be showing in some of these colors as well. So the drought, the flash drought, is continuing, moving south, and then is now a band down into the south, and then as of yesterday, it looks like this. So we kind of see these daily drought or flash drought periods moving through similarly to what like a weather front might look like on a day-to-day basis. Again, persistent in the west and pervasive drought through the central part of the country. But when the growing conditions are good, we can see healthy, vigorous crop activity in these areas. And so the crops are still growing, and we'll follow that through. And one of the things that we will look at here, this is a product from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and this is looking at corn on this particular graphic. And of course, we are here, this data goes up to August 14, and it tracks through the current condition of the crop compared to the previous 4 years. And so 2022 is this red line. It started out back in the middle of June, pretty consistent with what the average was, but you can see it's been declining rapidly. And it looks like in the next week, if things continue at this rate, it's going to drop below the 2019 value as well in terms of condition. And we can see that reflected over here on this chart, that the very poor, and fair crops are growing, and those crops that are good and excellent will probably be reducing as we go forward. Okay, so that looks at corn. We'll drop down and look at the winter wheat harvest. This is a little bit behind, so the current data line is for August 14th, but the data only goes up to the 1st of July. And so some areas had been harvesting at that time. But pretty consistent. The very poor, they've remained. They haven't really grown. And we are, however, at a low here in 2022 for the last 5 years. And so things are, the drought is, again, extending itself and showing itself in the crops to this point. And so we'll keep watching these as some of these crops like wheat, it continues to be harvested, and then like corn, which won't start harvest yet typically until maybe in the September through October time period. Okay, the last thing we're going to look at quickly again is just the GFS model for precipitation. The timestamp is up here starting at 12 p.m. August 20, and I'll just manually move this forward, and we can see that within the next 6 and 12 hours there's some pretty heavy forecast storms to be moving into North Texas, and then those will move through over the next day. My area up here in the Black Hills area, South Dakota, Wyoming, is pretty dry, and as we move through it remains dry. Again, now we're looking at 2 days from now. Forecast some pretty severe storms in kind of east central Texas. Now again, whether or not those will actually develop and look like this and have this footprint are unknown. These are models. The least amount of hours that you see here, they're probably better as this grows. As we move this line to the right, then the chances of this actually happening probably are decreasing. Okay, but you can see there's storms down in the south and southeast. My area remains dry, and it just continues on that way. Now we are August 25th, so the time is increasing. There's some precipitation possibly moving through my area late August. Again, we'll just have to see if that develops. And interestingly, as we get toward the end of August and the first days of September, you watch down here in the off the coast of Florida to the southeast, and you will see a hurricane moving in. So there must be some indication of a very low front moving through, and this as far as the model goes. Now this is September 5th, so quite some time from now, but possible storm coming in. And the central part of the country, for the most part, has been dry through this entire period. And so, according to these models, it's continuing that precipitation does happen. It's quite spotty. That's normal for this type of year, but it looks like most of the areas that are in drought are going to continue to be in drought. Okay, so that'll be it for this update this week. So thanks for watching. I hope this is useful for you. Leave some comments below. If you're interested in something maybe in your area, I'll try to hunt up some data if you have some question about your local area on droughty conditions or cropping or something like that. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, I hope you'll consider doing so. Give it a thumbs up so other people can see this, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching. See ya.